Welcome to the Roar of Judah. Our mission is to hear God's voice above the noise of this world. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mike.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Roar of Judah. I'm your host, Dr. Mike. And today we're going to be talking about our thoughts and how important they are to our mental health and overall well-being, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, socially. So it's an important topic today. The Bible really confirms how important our thoughts are. It tells us that we're to take every thought captive, tells us whatever is pure, mobile, true, and right, that we're to think about such things, we're to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And so over 100 times in Scripture, the Bible tells us something about our thoughts, our minds. And so when God created us, when God designed us, he knew how big of a topic and how important this topic would be that we're going to be talking about today. As a licensed professional counselor, that's probably 85% of the work that I do is helping people work on their thoughts, change their thoughts, see things from different perspectives. And so 30 years ago, in the world of psychology and counseling, everything was all about positive thinking and just look at the bright side of everything, see everything as the glass half full rather than half empty. And, in the 1950s, there was a book written called The Power of Positive Thoughts. And, it still jumps up on the best Times seller list even today. And, and there's a lot of value in that book. That, it's definitely better to look at the bright side, and it's definitely better, instead of thinking, my life is over, it's not worth living, and focusing on the positive things that you do have, it's definitely better. But what they found through research is that if the thoughts that you're telling yourself and giving yourself, if they're not believable to you, they don't have a whole lot of psychological value. So what I've worked on and what I've spent my career and life on is something, instead of positive thinking, I call it better but believable thoughts. So they're more positive thoughts, but equally important, they also have to be believable to the person to have that psychological value. So let me give you a scenario. So let's say you decide you would like to get a new job. And so you put in your resume and some applications at some places that you would like to work, and you get a phone call from your number one choice, that if you could work anywhere in the world, this place you'd want to work at. And so at first you're really excited. Wow, they called me, I get an interview, what an opportunity. And then you start to get the negative thoughts. Well, what if not sure I have the right education for this. I'm not sure I have enough experience for this. And you start to fill your mind with all these negative thoughts. And pretty soon you get to the point where you say, you know what, I'm probably just going to go and embarrass myself. So maybe I should cancel this interview. So 30 years ago, if you would have called a counselor and given them that situation and scenario, it would have been all about positive thinking. Just have confidence in yourself. They loved you. They looked at your resume. They want you to have this job. It's there on the table for you. Go to that interview. The job's there. Go get it. And now, again, that's better than sitting there thinking, what a waste of time. I think I'm just going to cancel this. But you might have some really valid reasons why you might not get this job. So maybe you don't have the right education. Maybe, you don't have enough experience or the right kind of experience. Maybe, they're interviewing the boss's son for the exact same position. So you could have some really valid reasons why it's unlikely for you to get this job. So again, what I work on and what I want to share with you today and how we renew our minds is through this better but believable thinking. So as a counselor today, if somebody called me and they went through that whole story, put out some resumes, I got a call, I was excited, but now I'm doubting myself. A better but believable thought might be something along the lines of, they did like your resume enough to give you a call. Worst thing that could happen is you go interview and you don't get the job, but you're going to gain more experience and you'll be more prepared for the next opportunity that comes. And hopefully, as you listen to that statement, you can see it's better than the what I was thinking prior to that, that it's a waste of time. I'm going to cancel it. And hopefully you can see it's also believable. Like there's nothing in that statement that you could look at and say, yeah, I don't think that's believable. All right. So let me give you two real life examples. So I used to do something called mobile therapy. And in mobile therapy, I could, if a child was having difficulty at school, I could go to school. If they're having difficulty at home, I could go to their homes. If they were afraid of the dentist, I could go to the dentist with them. There was a little boy named Matthew, and he had to get a vaccine, and he was scared to death to go to the doctor and get this shot. So we go to the doctor, and we're in the waiting room, and the nurse comes in, kind of checks his eyes and ears. Doctor comes in and is just doing some basic physical type stuff, and he's fine with that. In the meantime, we're just playing little games, staying distracted. And then the nurse comes in and she starts to get this vaccine or this shot ready. And so she's over there, she's got a needle inside the medicine and she's drawing the medicine out. And Matthew looks over at the nurse, sees a needle, and he starts to cry. And the nurse looks and she sees Matthew in tears and getting upset. And this is what the nurse said. She looked over and she said, Matthew, this is only going to tickle. And, I don't know what goes through the mind of a 5-year-old, but if I had to guess, as Matthew saw this needle, as he saw the medicine going in, Matthew's probably thinking to himself, this thing's probably going to make my arm fall off. And if my arm doesn't fall off, it's going to hurt the rest of my life. So when the nurse kind of gave that suggestion that it's only going to tickle, in no way, shape, or form did Matthew believe that what's about to happen to him is only going to tickle. So it only made him more upset. So I had to help Matthew create and form this better but believable thought. So this is what I did. I got Matthew's attention, and I got him to look me in the eye. I said, okay, Matthew, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold hands, we're going to close our eyes, and we're going to count out loud to 10. And I promise you, by the time we get to the number 7, but by the time we get to the number 10, it's no longer going to hurt. And so Matthew kind of looked at me, and he didn't stop crying, but it kind of gave me the look like, okay, if my arm's not going to fall off and it's not going to hurt the rest of my life, maybe I could do this. I might be able to survive 10 seconds. So Matthew and I, we hold hands, we start counting out loud, and then we get to the numbers, I think number 3. And at number 3, the nurse takes a shot, puts it in his arm. Matthew had just a little bit of a reaction. And we keep counting 4, 5, 6, and I think we got to the number 7. And after we said the number 7, Matthew opened his eyes, looked at me, quit counting, and said, "You were right, Mike. It doesn't hurt anymore. Let's go home." And it was just that better but believable thought where it was more positive than what he was thinking, but it was also believable because I'd been working with him for a few months and he trusted me and knew like I wasn't going to lie to him. All right. So one more in my psychology classes that I teach at the college level, as future counselors, I'm helping them learn this concept and how to help others. So I have them write their own negative thoughts down. And so in one of my psychology classes, everybody sent their negative thoughts to the front of the room. They don't have their names on them, so I don't know which belongs to who. And one of them said, every morning I wake up, I look at myself in the mirror, and I tell myself that I'm ugly. And when I read that one, there was a girl in the class that kind of sat up, spoke up, and said, I want to admit that one is mine. I wrote that and I want to admit it because I know this has a huge impact on my life and I want to get this under control. All right. So my first question was, what would be a better but believable thought? And she said, I should look at myself in the mirror every morning and tell myself that I'm beautiful. I said, that's a wonderful thought. If you do that tomorrow morning, are you going to believe that? And she's like, oh no, like I know I'm ugly. Like, so it's not going to have a lot of value to her. So we had to create and form this concept of creating a better but believable thought. And so the first thing you want to do for this is gather up all the evidence. So my first question was, going down the line of what evidence do you have for this thought? The first question was, you know, why do you feel that you're ugly? And she thought about that for a few moments. And this is what she said. She said, I would say when I weighed 120 pounds, I wouldn't say I was attractive, but I probably wouldn't have called myself ugly at that time. Now, I don't know what this girl weighs. If I had to guess, she probably went from 120 to 128. So it's not like she went to 922 pounds or something. She was a very healthy, normal weight, but that's what she's thinking. That's how she feels. So that's what we run with. So, my next statement to gather up all this evidence was, all right, so if we were to take every girl in the world that weighs as much as you currently do or more than you do, and we put them all in a straight line, would you go down that line and say every single one of those girls and women are ugly? And that was kind of the first eye opener. She's like, well, I got this friend. She weighs more than I do, and she's gorgeous. And, she's naming some famous people that, you know what, I know, I'm sure they weigh more than I do. And I would say they're like really, really attractive. And, so the first challenge to that thought was, maybe you'd feel more attractive if you're at 120. But you can recognize and see that there's many people over the weight of 120 that you say is beautiful and that they're very attractive. So the next part was as a class looking at, okay, what is beautiful, and what does that even mean? So I asked them to name the most attractive people in the world that they can think of. So they're naming models, singers, actors, actresses. So no matter who they named, I would put that person's name in, and then after it, I would type the word ugly. And it didn't matter who they named. There's somebody in the world that thinks that that person is ugly. So, with the standard of beauty and being ugly and all these things, like there's no age, there's no gender, there's no skin color, there's no hair color, there's no hairstyle, there's no weight. So no matter what you weigh, there's going to be people that think you're perfect. There's going to be people that think you're too light. There's going to be people that think you're too heavy. No matter what tone your skin is, there's going to be people that think you're too dark, not dark enough. And the list could go on and on. And, so really, like, beauty is, they say it's in the eye of the beholder. And, there's nothing you could do that everybody in the world is going to think, oh, you're just perfect. So it's really got to be kind of like under your own conditions. So the last challenge and question was, do you have anybody in your life that you can trust that wouldn't lie to you? And she brought up her friend Missy or something. And I said, what would Missy say if you told her that you're ugly? And she's like, oh, she gets so mad at me when I say that. Like, I tell her all the time, and she yells at me, tells me I'm beautiful and that I'm gorgeous, and I need to quit saying that and thinking that. And so all that to say, when we got done with that class, for this girl, her better but believable thought when she looked into herself in the mirror the next day was this: even though I feel like I'm ugly today, I know my friend Missy tells me I'm gorgeous. I have no reason to doubt that that's truly how she feels. And so you can hear in that thought, there's nothing there that's not believable. It's definitely more positive and better than what she was thinking. And then with these better but believable thoughts, as that becomes her new reality, that now you can make it a little bit better and still keep it believable. And then when that becomes the new reality, make it a little bit better again, just making sure you always keep it believable. So the challenge in all this is I ask my classes and even my clients, when they say a thought that's more positive, I'll say, is that better? And 99.9% of the time they say yes. When I ask, is that believable? Maybe it's 75% yes, 25% no. So when it's a no, we just have to back up a little bit and say, like, okay, maybe somewhere down the road, this will be 100% believable to you as we continue to build up. And that girl from my class, hopefully she's somewhere in the world today that every once in a while she wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror and says, you know what, I look pretty good today. Because she continued to build on these thoughts, continued to make them better, and kept them believable. So think about how you can apply this in your own life. And, for sure, God does not want us to, live in low view of ourselves. I mean, he created us. He gave us the bodies that we have. He's given us the image that we have. And, we should take care of those things. It talks about treating our bodies as a temple, but, he definitely doesn't want us to be limited in life, in our calling, in our walk, in our faith, just because we feel bad about ourselves. And, but there's so many other things you can do this to, job opportunities. Maybe you're going through an issue with your family. Maybe you're going through some financial struggles. As I go and I teach high schools this and assemblies, one of the powerful words that I've come up with is a 3-letter word. It's yet, Y-E-T. And so many of our negative thoughts, if we just put the word yet at the end, it turns it into the better but believable thought. So, I'm not where I want to be in my career yet. I haven't found the relationship. I don't want to be single anymore, and I haven't met the guy or girl of my dreams yet. And knowing that, it's all going to be in God's timing. But every single thing that you're dealing with in life, no matter how big, how small, these better but believable thoughts, I think can honor God and can help us, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, in all those different ways to make us the men and women that God's designed us to be. And just one quick side note, sometimes I have clients that tragedy strikes. We live in a sinful, fallen world. Sometimes somebody could be murdered or somebody suddenly passes away. That, sometimes you just need to grieve and say, what, as part of a sinful, fallen world, like this isn't fair, that this isn't what anybody would want in life or expect in life. And you just need to go through the process of letting yourself cry and, letting yourself be angry with God if that's what you need to do. But, somewhere down the line, being able to use this concept and turn your thoughts to where they continue to be better and you keep building them up to be more believable. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this, and hopefully you can all apply this to your life. Like I said, it's changed so many of my clients and helped their mental health and just helped them thrive in life. It's helped me thrive in life as I've overcome my anxiety and, just like everybody else, have good days and bad days. But when the bad days come, being able to use this can make it so much better and help me keep my eyes focused on Christ. And so please let me know in the comments any thoughts, anything that I may have missed, and hopefully you can use this and just grow into the men and women God designed you to be. So until next time, I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Roar of Judah Show with Dr. Mike. I hope you were inspired and encouraged to grow in your own faith. Please follow us online. We're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, your favorite podcast platform, all under Roar of Judah Show. Also, we'd love to hear from our viewers. Leave a comment. If you want to email us, we're roarofjudahshow@gmail.com. You can also visit us online. The website is www.roarofjudahshow.com. On there's a link to our online store. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I specialize in anxiety treatment. You can find my Freedom from Anxiety video program that's already helped thousands of people. Also, I have a 90-day Freedom from Anxiety devotional book. We also have all kinds of merchandise to help you share your faith, and I hope you'll check that out. We also believe that we all have a story that declares God's glory. If you'd like to be a guest on this show, we'd love to have you. On the website, towards the bottom, there's a little form that you can fill out, and we would love to hear your story. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May his face shine upon you as you let your light shine, so others would see your good deeds and worship your Father in heaven. This is Dr. Mike signing off. Until next time.